Imagine discovering a vintage Paris apartment where the architecture belongs to another century, yet the interior carries the unmistakable spirit of 1960s French design. From the quiet façade to the intimate rooms beyond its doors, this home reveals how vintage character, thoughtful proportions, and carefully chosen furnishings can remain inspiring long after their original era has passed. From the street, the apartment immediately feels connected to historic Paris. Tall windows, aged stonework, traditional proportions, and subtle architectural ornament create a facade that feels beautifully preserved. Nothing appears overly polished or newly constructed. Instead, the building carries the gentle marks of time, establishing an authentic vintage foundation for the interiors waiting beyond the entrance. The journey begins with a substantial wooden entrance door, its surface softened by decades of use. Brass hardware catches the afternoon light, while a narrow glimpse toward the interior suggests warmth beyond the threshold. This transitional moment is important because great interiors often begin before the living space itself, using entrances to establish atmosphere, material, and anticipation. Inside, the entrance hall reveals the architectural language of the apartment. A patterned floor, pale plaster walls, delicate molding, and an old mirror create an understated Parisian composition. From a slightly distant camera angle, the doorway frames the hall while a softly blurred vintage lamp occupies the foreground, creating depth and a cinematic sense of discovery. What makes this apartment fascinating is the meeting between historic Parisian architecture and 1960s French interiors. The original shell remains traditional, while the furniture introduces softer modern forms, richer wood tones, and more expressive colors. Rather than competing, the two periods create a conversation between past and present, showing how contrasting eras can coexist beautifully. Through a set of French doors, the living room gradually comes into view. A walnut cabinet rests against a warm ivory wall, while a curved vintage armchair sits beside a modest brass table. Soft daylight enters from the tall windows, illuminating the parquet floor and revealing how restrained furniture placement can make a room feel spacious and considered. The room does not depend on an abundance of decoration. Instead, one sculptural 1960s armchair becomes the visual anchor, surrounded by quieter pieces. This is an idea that remains useful today. A small apartment does not need countless statement objects. One memorable vintage piece can establish personality while allowing the rest of the room to breathe. The walnut furniture introduces warmth without making the room feel heavy. Its natural grain becomes especially beautiful when touched by late afternoon light. Nearby, brass details provide subtle highlights rather than obvious luxury. This combination demonstrates why vintage materials continue to work in contemporary interiors. They offer texture, warmth, and visual depth that manufactured finishes often struggle to reproduce. At the far end of the living room, tall French windows become an architectural centerpiece. Linen curtains soften the daylight without blocking it completely. Seen from beside the furniture, the curtains create a delicate foreground blur while the room remains sharply visible beyond them. The result feels intimate, photographic, and unmistakably connected to old Paris. The color palette introduces muted olive, tobacco brown, warm cream, and touches of dusty mustard. These shades feel distinctly vintage without becoming theatrical. Instead of covering every surface with color, the apartment allows neutral walls and natural wood to provide balance. This restraint offers a practical lesson for anyone wanting to introduce 1960s character into a smaller home. Above the cabinet, several framed artworks create a quiet gallery-like arrangement. Their colors echo the furniture rather than competing with it. A closer camera view reveals slightly aged frames, textured paper, and subtle imperfections. These details make the apartment feel lived in, reminding us that a timeless interior often comes from collected objects rather than perfectly coordinated decoration. Near the window, a compact reading corner demonstrates another strength of the apartment. A low wooden chair, small side table, folded textile, and softly glowing lamp create a space that feels useful rather than decorative. Even in a modest apartment, a carefully defined corner can create a sense of luxury simply by giving everyday activities their own atmosphere. Beyond the living room, the dining area appears through another doorway, maintaining the visual continuity of the apartment. The transition is subtle, with the same parquet floor and warm neutral walls connecting the spaces. From the corridor, the dining table appears partially framed by the doorway, creating another layered composition that emphasizes depth and architectural rhythm. A rounded wooden dining table occupies the center of the room, surrounded by vintage French chairs with softly upholstered seats. Its modest scale feels particularly relevant for modern apartments. Instead of filling the room with oversized furniture, the design respects circulation and proportion, proving that vintage inspiration can be practical as well as beautiful. The kitchen continues the apartment's restrained French vocabulary. Wooden cabinetry, aged brass hardware, cream-colored surfaces, and compact proportions create a welcoming environment without relying on excessive decoration. The space feels authentic because every element appears chosen for use as well as appearance, offering a valuable reminder that beautiful kitchens can remain practical, intimate, and highly personal. A closer view reveals ceramic vessels, glassware, wooden utensils, and small vintage objects arranged naturally across the kitchen. Nothing looks excessively staged. Soft window light creates highlights across the surfaces while a nearby cabinet edge falls gently out of focus. These intimate details help transform the kitchen from a functional room into part of the apartment's visual story. The corridor deserves attention because it connects the apartment's individual moments. Rather than treating it as wasted space, the design uses artwork, lighting, doors, and architectural molding to create rhythm. Looking down the hallway toward the bedroom, the repeated door frames produce a classic Parisian perspective, while warm light at the far end invites us to continue exploring. the bedroom feels quieter than the public rooms. Warm cream walls, aged wood furniture, soft textiles, and filtered daylight create a more intimate atmosphere. The camera looks into the room from just beyond the doorway, with part of the corridor softly blurred in the foreground. This perspective makes the bedroom feel discovered rather than presented. The furniture carries recognizable 1960s forms, yet the room remains comfortable and timeless. A simple wooden bed, upholstered headboard, compact bedside tables, and carefully selected textiles provide warmth without visual clutter. The lesson here is simple. Recreating an era does not require reproducing every detail. A few authentic shapes can communicate an entire design language. Linen curtains filter the remaining daylight, while textured bedding and a vintage wool rug introduce softness. Their slightly imperfect surfaces contrast beautifully with the polished wood furniture. From close range, the materials create subtle depth, while the background dissolves into gentle bokeh. The room feels luxurious not because it is excessive, but because it is tactile and thoughtfully layered. Near the bedroom window, a small dressing corner combines a vintage mirror, narrow wooden cabinet, and brass lamp. The arrangement occupies very little space, yet it creates a distinct daily ritual within the room. This is another idea worth borrowing. Small apartments can feel richer when ordinary functions are given carefully designed places rather than being hidden or ignored. As daylight fades, the character of the apartment changes completely. Warm lamps begin glowing throughout the rooms, reflecting softly across brass hardware, glass, and polished wood. From the hallway, several illuminated spaces appear one behind another, creating a cinematic composition. The architecture becomes darker while the furniture seems warmer, revealing another side of vintage Parisian living. The evening lighting demonstrates why vintage interiors should never depend on one central source. Table lamps, pendant lights, and smaller accent fixtures create overlapping pools of illumination. Their warm glow adds depth to the rooms and emphasizes architectural details. For modern apartments, this remains one of the easiest ways to create atmosphere without changing the entire interior. After sunset, the windows become dark reflections, allowing the interior to become its own intimate world. A lamp glows beside the armchair, artwork disappears softly into shadow, and the walnut furniture gains a deeper richness. Seen through a partially open French door, the room feels almost like a still photograph from another decade, preserved but still alive. The greatest lesson from this vintage apartment is not that we should copy the 1960s exactly. It is that thoughtful proportions, natural materials, warm lighting, meaningful objects, and restrained color can create interiors that age beautifully. A modern apartment can borrow these principles while keeping contemporary conveniences, creating a home that feels personal rather than trapped in a particular decade. You do not need a historic Paris apartment to capture this atmosphere. Start with one vintage-inspired chair, warm wood, a muted color, textured textiles, and LED lighting. Add artwork gradually and allow empty space to remain visible. The goal is not to recreate a photograph from 1960, but to understand why the composition worked and reinterpret those ideas for the way you live today. As the final lamps glow across the apartment, the old Parisian architecture and 1960s furniture seem perfectly at home together. Perhaps that is why this interior still feels timeless. It does not belong entirely to the past. It shows us that great design can carry history forward, allowing vintage character, French craftsmanship, and everyday living to become part of the same beautiful story.